When most people think of demon possession, they picture the classic projectile vomiting, head spinning around variety. While that does happen, it's mostly novice demons who cause that. The vomiting and abnormal behavior being a result of the host's mind rejecting the possession. They're the little voice that tells you that you're fine to drive when you know you've had too much, or that you can cheat on your wife just this once, and no one will ever find out. Or if you've ever known someone with Alzheimer's who really got mean towards the end, you're like as not looking at the work of a demon. Dementia demons are mostly newbies though. They do it because old, broken minds don't fight back, so it's pretty much impossible to screw up. And if you're in hell, you want good stats on your first possession. Otherwise, you'll get kicked right back to the back of the line, and you won't see another chance for thousands of years. Oh yeah, the line. Everybody in hell gets a number in the line, and the more evil you do with each possession, the better your place in line. So if you're lucky enough to get a possession, you'd better wreak havoc, and try not to get exorcised or killed. It used to be hell trying to keep track of the paperwork of who went where, but things are running a lot more smoothly with the new computer system. We're still way behind Earth technology, of course. We don't get a lot of computer engineers down here for some reason. We've got plenty of salespeople though, but before you can even hop in the line, you've got to go through what basically amounts to demon college. They call it a college, but it's really more like those corporate training seminars they have in America. Satan wanted it to be soul-crushing after all. Most of the introductory stuff is boring, like how to take control of the mind of your victim. That really is the foundation for everything though, because if you can't do that, your victim's mind will kick you right out and you'll be back in hell, at the back of the line, with a failure of possession charge on your record. And you definitely don't want that. The advanced stuff is where it gets more interesting, and you get to choose a specialty. Most people go into addiction because it's one of the easiest majors and you get a reasonable amount of time before your host ODs or just gets used up. Some people go into mental illness, but that can get you institutionalized, and you really don't get to have fun with your new body if you're stuck in a padded room all day. There's also a dictator class. Professor Hitler teaches that one, but not many people take it. Not only is it impractical, Hitler always ends up going on some tangential rant about Jews at the end of class. We get it, Hitler. You don't like Jews. Professor Bundy's class is pretty popular though. There are a lot of wannabe serial killers in hell, and it gives you amazing stats if you can pull it off on Earth. 10 or more victims, and you're allowed to jump the line and possess another body without going back to hell first. The last thing you should know about demon possession is how it happens. After all, you want to avoid it if you can. The most common is the Ouija board. People will accidentally summon up a demon, and by letting it control their hands, they allow their consciousness to overlap. The demon sneaks in through that window. If it's a particularly talented demon, it can fragment its consciousness and possess everyone with their hands on the board. The same thing can happen with a seance. Most demons will choose the weakest link, but some will be able to possess everyone in the room. Anyway, I'm afraid this is where my story ends. My host body is dying, and typing is getting pretty exhausting. But before I leave you, there's one more thing I want to tell you. The most ancient and skilled demons only need a tiny overlap in consciousness to possess you. They may only need to converse with you for a moment, or even just trick you into reading or listening to something. Maybe a story that distracts you just long enough for them to slip in unnoticed. You may feel uneasy or paranoid when it happens, or you may feel nothing at all. So, with all that said, how do you feel? Thanks to my last story, it looks like I'll be here on Earth for quite a while now. So, if you're curious, I can tell you a little bit more about hell. I'll also let you know about how I first got to know Satan. It's an important part of how I wound up where I am today, as one of the most skilled possession artists in hell. Besides, let's face it, you should be curious about hell. After poking around in some of your heads, I'm sorry to say that most of you will be going directly there when you die. It's not that you're evil or anything, it's just that God really doesn't like that kind of website. Even as a demon, I must admit that I was pretty shocked. I did forward some of the links to Satan, however. He's always on the lookout for things to base the new hellscapes on. What are hellscapes, you ask? They're sort of like theme parks, but instead of lighthearted fun in the sun, it's visceral torment and eternal despair. The lines are the same though, except in hell, you'd much rather be in line than on the ride. There are 7 main hellscapes, themed after the 7 deadly sins: pride, greed, lust, gluttony, envy, sloth, and wrath. There are also many smaller hellscapes based on whatever horrible ideas Satan can come up with. There may or may not be a tentacle-themed hellscape soon, thanks to some of the videos I pulled from your brain's browser history. That leads me into the first hellscape I want to talk about: lust. Lust is one of the older hellscapes, and it's also the largest. Marquis de Sade is in charge of operations here. Unfortunately, it's been under construction ever since 50 Shades of Grey was released. Hell's management wants the park to be ready for the big influx of lust-related sins when the Grey generation dies off in about 50 years. Right now, they mostly have relatively boring sins down there, like having the odd fantasy about your hot cousin. Yeah, that's right, don't worry. It's actually much more common than you think. Just kidding. You're a degenerate. But your personal sexual deviancy aside, I'll go on to tell you about some of the rides. Luckily for most people, your punishment is commensurate with your sins, and most people's lust-related sins are fairly mild. Things are a little worse for those who take advantage of women and children, though. There's the mandatory daily castration, as well as being forced to experience the assault from the point of view from each of your victims. The weirdest ride is being reincarnated as one of those free condoms that they hand out in nursing homes. I don't know who gave Satan that idea, but when he told me, he was practically skipping with excitement. He just loves stuff like that. Have you ever had a boss that seemed to get way too excited over stuff that nobody else cared about? Satan's that kind of guy. Only, you gotta pretend to be excited too, or he'll eviscerate your guts. And let me tell you, he loves eviscerating people's guts. The Lust Hellscape is the first hellscape I visited upon entering hell. This was back when the hellscape was much smaller, and I can still remember the stench as the gates opened and I trudged through them. The stench of stale sweat and leftover fluids invaded my nostrils and left me bent over, retching by the side of the road. When I saw what awaited me here, I turned and bolted away, but I was caught and carried in all the same. I'll spare you the details of what happened next. This was also the first time that I met Satan. It wasn't a terribly long meeting. He just told me how much he admired what I had done on Earth, and I gasped and choked on my own blood in answer. I just remember him laughing and walking off, shaking his head. Greed. John D. Rockefeller runs this hellscape, although Hell's management is considering replacing him with someone younger. They're expecting a certain prominent American politician down there very soon. The thing about the Greed hellscape is that it's mostly populated by people who were the elite of their society in their time. Commensurately, Satan created their hellscape to be shabby, even by hell standards. If you want to know what that means, just picture a slightly nicer version of New Jersey. The most popular ride in the Greed hellscape is the waiter ride. The damned are forced to experience the life of a waiter or retail worker in which every single customer is rude, but they can't quit because they need the money. After that, we have the third world factory worker ride. A lot of clothing manufacturers get sent to that one, let's just say working your fingers to the bone, isn't just an expression there. I spent a long time in this hellscape myself as a young demon, and it is the second on this list because it is the second time I got to meet Satan. He had just come to inspect a problem with one of the rides, the one where you slowly get buried alive by gold coins. Due to my egregious greed in life, I was in the ride when he came, and he was confused when he saw me. "I thought you were a wrath violator. What are you doing here?" he asked. "I've already been to Wrath," I replied, "for 200 years. 200 years? Jesus, what did you do again?" "If you want to know, you can read my paperwork." He looked at me for a moment like he was angry, and then he laughed. Oh man, not many people have the balls to stand up to me, you know. I respect that. He smiled and extended a hand, and we shook. And then, he eviscerated my guts. Pride. Pride, vanity, or arrogance will land you here. This hellscape used to be rather small and unpopular, but with the rise of Snapchat and the selfie culture, the amount of vanity offenders is exploding. Arrogant, my opinion is right and everyone else is stupid types may find themselves here as well, which means a lot of people who spend their spare time arguing on the internet have a nasty surprise waiting in the afterlife. To atone for their pride on earth, the damned here have to do a lot of ass-kissing. And no, that's not a figure of speech. If you think you're guilty of the sin of pride, I suggest you cut off your nose and tongue, because you definitely do not want to know what a demon's ass smells like. The walls and ceilings are made of mirrors here, and the reflection you see depends on the degree of your pride in life. If you are just a little vain, you may only see your reflection from that time you had a really bad haircut or breakout. But if you were really proud, you get the whole face crawling with maggots treatment. The most egregious pride offenders mostly haven't made it down here yet, though. Apparently in America, they have this special kind of celebrity who everyone has heard of, yet no one actually knows why they are famous. Hell doesn't have an appropriate punishment for them yet, but Satan is working hard on one now. Maybe you have some ideas? If so, please let me know, and make it ironic if possible. Satan just loves poetic justice. Anyway, you probably guessed that this is the third hellscape where I met Satan, and you're right. I had just finished a 20-year stint as a slave when he came strolling up to me waving and smiling. "Johnny boy," he half yelled. "Good to see you. How long has it been?" "It's been 82 years, and my name's not Johnny." "Really? Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. James." "It ain't James either. What do you want, Satan?" He ignored my tone and wrapped an arm around me, grinning. "I was hoping you could help me with something, Jimmy. One of the rides in the new witch-based hellscape is broken, and the technicians are stumped. So, I thought to myself, who do I know that knows all about magic? My old buddy Jimmy, of course." He practically shouted the last part of my ear as his clawed hand patted me on the back more than a little too hard. I wanted to tell him to screw off, but I figured it was preferable to spending another 20 years working the fields for rich assholes, so I went along with him and fixed the ride. I'll wrap it up here for now, as I've already fragmented my consciousness into several bodies, and I'd like to go out and enjoy them. Sadly, I'm not talented enough to possess all of you, so the next time you have an urge to do something that you know you shouldn't, it may be me that's whispering evil notions in your ear, or it may just be your own human nature. But until that happens, relax. Read another story. No need to exert yourself. After all, a little sloth is no great sin. You probably gathered from my last story that Satan's role in hell is mostly managerial. He oversees operations in each hellscape, as well as appoints demons to head up departments and special projects. He's even considering diversifying and opening up a small chain of artisanal pastry shops on Earth. I know it sounds like a terrible idea, but nobody tells Satan his ideas are bad unless they enjoy being disemboweled. People say he was much more free-spirited and anti-establishment in his younger days, always ranting about overthrowing heaven, but that he changed after he settled down and had kids. Personally, it's hard for me to imagine a free-spirited Satan, but that was before my time. As for me, after I'd helped Satan with the last park malfunction, he had promoted me to ride technician, and now I got to visit the parks as a corporate employee, which was only slightly less worse than visiting them as a torture victim. After doing so well on the witch-themed hellscape, my next assignment was on one of the big parks. Envy. The Envy hellscape is reserved for people who sabotage others, or otherwise lie, cheat, or steal to obtain success. The corporate culture in America and unrestrained capitalism really helped fill this park out with people who stepped on their co-workers' backs for a small raise and a lease for a slightly less shitty Ford Focus. People in this hellscape are sentenced to carry a literal knife in the back for each person they betrayed in life. The most ironic ride, and therefore Satan's favorite, is the one where they starve to death in a cage while watching others eat and drink outside. And this was the ride Satan wanted me to work on. I can still remember the conversation. "Hey, Jerry!" He flashed that big toothy grin he always had. "I was wondering if you could magic something up for me." "My name isn't Jerry, Satan. What do you want?" Haha, classic Jerry. "Hey, you know the ride where people starve to death?" "I guess I do now. What about it?" I wanted to know if you could make the food they eat cause them to shit fire. Like, literally. "Food? I thought you just said they starve to death." No, the other people. Come on, Jerry. If you pull my leg, I'll have to pull yours too. Except I'll pull it all the way off. He slapped his knee and laughed at his own joke for a solid 20 seconds before going on. Just head out there and see if you can sort it out for me. All right, Jared? I wondered if he really had forgotten what he had called me just 20 seconds ago, but I shook it off and made my way to the park. I had just finished placing a curse on the food when I felt a clawed hand clap me on the shoulder. "Hey, Gary, this looks great. Hey, I brought a guy from marketing over to take some pictures for the corporate website. Gary, meet Jeff. Jeff, Gary." Satan gestured to a defeated-looking demon with a camera draped around his neck. That's great, Satan, but my name's not. Never mind. Wait, hell has a corporate website?" Satan scratched at his goatee. Not yet, but when we get one, we'll want to have lots of pictures. If we don't show people the good bits of hell, nobody will ever want to come." "You want to recruit people to hell with pictures of them shitting fire?" "Exactly. Just like that restaurant Taco Bell on Earth." "Satan, I don't think Taco Bell makes people literally." "Anyway, we'll leave Jeff to do the boring marketing stuff. You're coming with me to Wrath to help me magic some awesome stuff up. Great place, Wrath. You ever been?" "I was there for 200 years. No kidding. So, you know what I mean." Before long, we arrived at Wrath. The gates creaked open and I shuddered as I caught a whiff of the all-too-familiar stench of blood. "So, here's my idea, Gary. Are you ready for this?" "Probably not, but go ahead." 2 words, Gary. Human shish kebab." "Human shish kebab?" "Yeah, just picture it. We stick a bunch of people on a stick with some bell peppers, maybe some cherry tomatoes. We could even use different colored people to make it look nice." What? Okay, but you need magic to hold the stick?" No. I already got a guy for that. Hey, buddy, yeah, you. Come over here. Gary wants to meet you." My jaw dropped as the man who jogged over was no less than 10 feet tall, and full of solid muscle. "Gary, I'd like you to meet my good friend, Gollum. Gollum, Gary, Gollum." "It's Goliath." I jumped at the sound of the stranger's booming voice. Goliath, are you sure?" "Okay. Anyway, Gary here's gonna help me magic up your stick to keep people from falling off into the fire all the time." Satan turned to me. "We can only keep people on the damn thing a few weeks before the stick rips its way right through them. Anyway, you two sort it out and holler when you're done. I've got an important phone call, so I'll just be right over there." With that, he jogged off, and I began my work on the stick. I glanced over when I was finished to see Satan laughing along with a young demon college student, twirling her tail around with his fingers. We're done over here, Satan," I yelled. He jogged back over, grinning. Great stuff. Come on, Gary," he said, throwing his arms around me. He leaned in close and started talking in a low voice as we walked away. His breath smelled like coffee and brimstone. Yeah, you may want to watch your back around Goliath," he said furtively. "And I wouldn't bend over around him either. It's a little too tempting for him, if you know what I mean." "You mean he's, That's right, Gary. A cannibal." "Well, I don't really... Wait, what?" "Yeah, I lost 2 technicians to him last week. Ripped their heads clean off, spine and all. And he's not too happy with you either. You're the one that fixed it so he couldn't tear people off the stick anymore." "Wait, but you just... Hold on. Why wouldn't I bend over in front of him because he's a cannibal?" "What? You never heard of rump roast? Jesus, Gary, you're a little slow on the uptake sometimes." Okay, Satan. So, where to next?" "Gluttony, Gary. You're gonna love it there. It's great. Just great." "Okay, so what do you want me to do there?" 2 words, Gary. Exploding cheesecake. Gluttony. As Satan and I approached the Gluttony hellscape, I noticed that it was quite a bit smaller than the others. I had never been to this hellscape, and I wondered what sort of grim horror awaited me inside. Despite what I had seen in the other parks, I couldn't help but gasp when the heavy iron gates creaked open. The inside was filled with long tables laid out with an exquisite feast. Huge racks of lamb, mountains of mashed potatoes, even ice cream that somehow resisted melting in the hellfire around us. "This is gluttony?" I asked. "I don't get it. Where's the punishment?" "They're always hungry, Glenn," Satan said excitedly. "And every time they take a bite, they only get hungrier." Okay, I got it. We let them eat real food eventually, though." "Wow, that's nice of you, I guess." "Yeah, once their relatives die off, we feed them the bodies." "Oh, okay. But, how is gluttony a sin? I don't get that either." Satan laughed and strolled over to a small, fat Asian man in flashy sunglasses shoveling mashed potatoes into his mouth. "This one's name is Kim Jong-il." The man gulped as Satan clapped a hand on his shoulder and dug his claws. "He let thousands of his people starve to death while he feasted in his compound surrounded by guards. Even when other countries tried to send food, he kept it just so he could stay in power. How does that food taste now, Kim?" Satan's claws dug in deeper and the man yelped a little louder. I stared at the fat, sad little man and shook my head. "Do you think he likes cheesecake?" I asked. Satan grinned. As we were leaving Gluttony, Satan handed me a handkerchief to wipe the exploded remains of Mr. Ill off my shirt. Satan, I'm starting to think you're not such a bad guy after all." He nodded knowingly. You're getting Stockholm Syndrome, Glenn. Just don't go falling in love with me. I've already got 17 wives, and I'm not looking for a husband." "Okay, so where to next?" "Where else?" said Satan. "Sloth." Sloth was another park I had never been to, so I didn't know what to expect when we got there. The gates of hellscapes always opened slowly, but it took at least a full minute for the colossal gates to creak their way open here. I heard a sniffing sound and looked over to see Satan snorting a line of white powder off the end of his tail. Satan, what are you doing cocaine? 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 Satan laughed deliriously. Don't be ridiculous, Peter. This is ground up hellhound bones. Cocaine is like decaf compared to this stuff. He patted me on the back about 10 times too hard, and then shoved his tail under my nose. Go on, Peter, have a bump. You're gonna need it in there. I don't really. Satan flicked his tail and left me coughing in a cloud of the stuff. My lungs felt like they were on fire as I breathed the powder in, until I was sure I was about to die, when all of a sudden my whole body went numb. I looked over to see a 3-foot wide grin on Satan's face, which now appeared to be the size of an SUV. Are you feeling it now, Peter? The world was swaying and bending around me and the air felt like jelly. Everything seemed to slow down as every atom in my body vibrated with intense pleasure. I was definitely feeling it. As we walked through the gates, I felt a sudden weight push down on my body. Gravity is 12 times stronger in here, Peter, Satan yelled. Keeps the residents moving slowly. Cool, right? I looked around, and the people in the park were indeed moving at a snail's pace, many of them with one foot suspended in the air, almost frozen in the middle of a step. We've been having this really weird glitch, though, lately. Hey, Kirstenix, show Peter here the glitch. I looked over to where Satan was shouting, and I saw an enormous mountain of a demon with ram's horns and thick black fur all over his body. He grunted and yanked on a giant lever he was standing next to, and the gates began to creak closed behind us. Splat. The sound was deafening as every resident in the park simultaneously collapsed like a building falling straight to the ground, spraying blood and viscera everywhere. See, when the gates close, the gravity shoots way up and we have to unplug it and plug it back in to reset it. It's super annoying. We haven't been able to use the main gate for weeks. Help me out, huh, Peter? I'll, see what I can do. I cleared away some of the brain matter in what looked to be someone's spleen, and got to work drawing my runes on the ground, thankful for whatever the hellhound bones were doing to keep me from going splat like everyone else. I looked over to Kirstenix when I'd finished. Okay, try it again. Kirstenix yanked the lever and the gates slowly dragged their way back open. Hold on a second, Peter. We need a guinea pig. Satan ran out and grabbed a passing demon, dragging him into the park as he protested weakly. Satan, I've really got to hand in these reports, and the deadline is... Forget about the deadline. You're going to be part of something greater than yourself here. This is experimentation. This is science. But Now, Kirstenix. The big demon yanked the lever. The gates creaked closed and... nothing. The demon's face relaxed and he let out a long sigh of relief. Anyway, Satan, Splat. His sentence came to an abrupt end as Satan bashed his head in with a rock. Woohoo, yeah, 10 points, Satan yelled. Sorry about that, Steve. I just got so disappointed when he didn't go splat. I stared at him in disbelief. Hey, Steve. He started elbowing me in the ribs and giggling. Steve, looks like he met his deadline after all, huh? Get it? Satan started laughing hysterically. Oh, yeah, haha. Hey, can I ask you something, Satan? Sure thing, Jason. Why is it that you can never seem to remember my name? That's a great question, Barry. Great. I've been meaning to talk to you about that. You see, I'm an ethereal being, Barry. Do you know what that means? No, not really. Obviously, it means I make all the girls go crazy. But it also means that I exist in 5 dimensions, Jackie. 5. That's almost all of them. Wait, how many dimensions are there? Don't ask stupid questions, Gerald. I'm trying to explain something here. See, you exist in 3 dimensions, and then the 4th is time. But I exist in 5, which means that I can walk through time
like you walk through a hallway. You feel me, Gerald? You picking up what I'm putting down? You catching what I'm throwing? You getting where I'm going?
You're saying that you're a time traveler.
Don't be stupid, Eric. Time travel is impossible. But you just said... I know what I said. Listen, do you know what happens when you try to travel through time, Billy? Your mind shatters into a trillion tiny little pieces, Andy. They're so tiny, you can never put them all back together again.
So that's what happened to you?
That's what happens to you, Jeff. I'm gonna teach you. We're gonna break your mind into so many tiny little pieces. It'll be great, Jacob. Great.
Why would I want to?
Because then you can possess the souls of hundreds, even thousands of people at a time. I do remember your name, Willie. I just don't remember what time I'm in.
That doesn't make any sense.
It only doesn't make sense if you think about it, Alan. Don't be a buzzkill, all right?
So you're saying the names belong to people whose souls I'm going to possess?
Exactly, David. You are those people. Just not right now. Anyway, enough of that. Do you like white wine, Brent?
Actually, I prefer.
Great. Come on over for dinner. I've got big plans for you, Richard. Huge.
Satan's castle loomed enormous and gray in the distance. As we approached it, we saw dark thunderclouds overhead, and a cold rain began pelting down. I've never seen thunderclouds in hell before, I said.
That's right you haven't, Harry. I had my thunder guy hook it up. Gives the place a real evil sort of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually it.
Do you like hot tubs, Harry?
I died before they were invented, so...
Great. You're gonna have a blast, Harry.
We walked up to the giant wooden doors, and Satan rapped his knuckles on them rhythmically. Who dares approach the Dark Lord's castle? I nearly jumped out of my skin as the huge bellow caused the doors to shake in their frame.
It's Satan. Open up.
What is the password?
Just open the damn door, Fears Now, before I break it down and rip your damn throat out.
The doors began to slowly creak open, and I silently wondered why no one in hell ever bothered to oil their door hinges. Welcome to the depths of the abyss. I could hear the booming voice echoing throughout the hallways, but I couldn't see where it was coming from.
I'd like you to meet Fursnell, Harry. Harry, Fursnell, Fursnell, Harry.
My eyes followed to where Satan was pointing, and I saw a small demon standing at my feet. He couldn't have been more than a foot tall, and he looked like a baby with horns. Nice to meet you, Harry.
Nice to meet you too, Frazzle.
Fears Now.
Right, Frizzle.
The demon baby had opened his mouth to say something, but Satan cut him off.
Have you seen my wife, Frizzle?
She is in her room. The demon baby shot me a dirty look as Satan beckoned me up the stairs.
Come on, Harry. My wife is really friendly. She's great, Harry. Great. Not bitchy like the other 16.
We summited the stairs and Satan knocked on a heavy stone door.
Honey, are you in there?
No answer. Satan slowly pushed open the door, but the bare stone room was empty except for a bed and a large fish tank.
Ah, great. There she is.
Satan strolled over to the fish tank and plunged his arms deep down inside, splashing water all over the floor. He pulled out an octopus and stuck it in my face.
Crystal, honey, I'd like you to meet my good friend Harry. Harry, Crystal, Crystal, Harry.
This is an octopus, Satan.
Whoa, easy there, Larry. That's my wife you're talking about. I mean, sure, she can be a bit of an octopus sometimes, but we're in love.
Okay, is she gonna join us in the hot tub?
Don't be ridiculous, Larry. She's an octopus. The heat would kill her.
Right. Satan gingerly placed Crystal back in her tank, and we left the room and set off down the hall.
I've got a couple of girls to join us, Larry. You like squid, right?
I prefer human girls, actually.
You want to eat human girls for dinner? Wow, you're a sick son of a bitch, Larry. I like it.
No,
Sadly, I don't have any extra human girls besides the ones joining us in the hot tub.
Oh, thank God.
You're in hell, Larry. God is the last person you should be thanking.
He was right about that, I guess.
Come on, Larry. It's this way.
Satan beckoned me down a pitch-black hallway. As we walked through the darkness, an eerie feeling began to settle on me like I was being watched. The walls around me seemed almost like they were breathing somehow.
Hey, Satan, I whispered. Could you maybe turn on the lights? Oh, I don't know, Larry. They really don't seem to like that. And personally, I can't stand the screaming.
That definitely didn't help. Please?
Okay, Larry, but don't say I didn't warn you. Satan clapped his hands twice and the hallway burst into light as the torches on the wall lit up. Except they weren't really torches.
Hundreds of bodies were nailed to the stone walls, and their heads had all just burst into flames. They all began screaming at once. The noise was inhumanly terrible.
They're human torches, Larry.
Satan yelled over the sound.
You get it? Like the movie?
I wondered if Satan devised his torture techniques with a book of puns and a dartboard. When we got to the hot tub, it turned out that there were actually 2 girls waiting for us. They were both tall, with blonde hair and blue eyes, and looked like they had just stepped out of a Victoria's Secret catalog.
Hey, girls, I'd like you to meet Larry. Larry, girls, Reggie. Hi, Reggie, they both said, smiling. Well, go on, Reggie, get naked.
Satan knocked me off balance with a particularly strong pat on the back.
The
girls were looking at me expectantly.
What the hell? I said, tearing off my shirt and pants. Whoa, he actually did it. What did I tell you, girls? Reggie's crazy. Crazy. I've got some swim trunks over there for you, man. Put that thing away before you hurt somebody.
Satan stripped down to his boxers and splashed into the tub, while I pulled on the trunks and shamefully slinked into the water.
Hey, Reggie, I didn't mean to embarrass you,
Satan whispered.
I didn't know about your problem.
My what? What problem?
Come on, Reggie, we all saw it. No use pretending. It's okay. The girls have seen all kinds of weird physical deformities before. They used to work for Dr. Jong-il.
Satan, I have no idea what you're...
Okay, girls. You're clearly making Reggie uncomfortable because of his weird penis problem. Why don't you leave us alone? Just go away to my bedroom.
No, Satan,
Don't worry, Reggie. I got you covered,
he said, throwing his arm over me as the girls got out of the tub.
We'll get that sorted out for you. I'll give you Dr. Jong-il's card. He's great, Reggie. The best. You're not Jewish, right? If you are, don't tell him.
Okay, Satan. You said earlier that you brought me here for a reason?
Yeah, George. We're celebrating the completion of my master plan. Good job, George.
What? But I haven't done anything, Satan.
You haven't? Wait. What time am I in?
The present?
Oh, shit. I hate the present. So much to do. We should go to the future sometime. It's great, George. Great. Everything's already done there.
Just tell me the damn plan already, Satan.
Whoa, the ball's on this guy. Okay, George.
Satan reached down into the water and pulled out a large kitchen knife.
First, you and I are going to have to link our souls. Do you know how that works, George?
Where the hell were you keeping that knife?
Exactly, George. I just need to carve a rune into your chest. Just hold still for a moment. Whoa, Satan, hold on, Son of a bitch!
Satan had gripped my shoulder with one hand and begun carving the rune into my chest with the knife. By the time he had finished, I was on the verge of passing out, and the hot tub water was tinted pink with blood.
It looks great, George. Great. I'm really sorry about that, but I lost my permanent marker. Oh, wait. There it is.
Satan plunged his hand down into the water again and pulled out a Sharpie, which he used to start drawing an identical rune on his own chest. My head was swimming.
and my vision started going black at the edges. Satan, I'm feeling kinda... I know, Brian. I'm excited too. Now, we're officially best friends forever. But now that that's out of the way, let's talk about my evil plan. Everything went black as I felt the warm water close over my head. When I woke up, I was staring at the ceiling. I breathed out a sigh of relief at the fact that I wasn't dead. That relief was short-lived, as Satan poked his head into my coffin. Wait, why was I in a coffin? Hey there, sleeping beauty. Looks like we don't have to bury you after all. You were about to... But enough sleeping on the job. We've got work to do, Joey. But I still don't know the plan. But I just told you, Robert. What? You mean while I was unconscious? Exactly, Robert. Exactly. So when the time comes, your unconscious mind will just know what to do. But that's not... You know what? Never mind. Whatever. Whoa, so gloomy all of a sudden, buddy. Because you... Don't worry. I brought just the thing to cheer you up. Satan, I really don't think that. The girls are here with me, buddy, and they're all ready for you. I'll just step out of the room and leave you to it. Satan, I don't... Oh, wait. Really? Of course, buddy. Your old pal Satan's got your back. You said you wanted to eat human girls for dinner, right? Oh, I really hate you sometimes, Satan. I love you too, buddy. Go ahead and eat, and then let's get you to the Soulport. You're first in line when the next soul opens up for possession. I'm not really hungry, Satan. Let's just go. Sure thing, buddy. Satan took me to the Soulport, and though he wouldn't shut up the whole time, I couldn't get him to tell me about his plan. He just kept saying that when the time came, I'd do what was needed. Well, the time must still not have come, because I have no idea what to do. I'm just glad to be on Earth for the time being. That being said, though, he did tell me a good bit about ethereal beings on the train ride to the Soulport. You seem like the kind of people who'd be interested, so I'll relay the things he said to you now. He said that ethereal beings existed in 5 dimensions, not including time. He also said that they could see other planes of existence, but not travel between them, that they were too large for the gateways. He said that the gateways between planes lie in the intangible. When I asked him what that meant, he said that meant that the gateways were held in the minds of a plane's inhabitants. That's why atheists don't go to hell. Because they don't believe in it, the gateway remains shut to them. Lastly, he said that Jesus was an ethereal being just like him, and the reason that he was able to travel between planes was because of the Bible. Though it wasn't as widely spread back then, Satan said it was much more specific. He said it conveyed the true nature of God much more accurately than the Bible today. So much so that the God people thought of when they read the Bible was almost the same as the real God. He said that widened the gates in people's minds enough to allow God to send a part of himself to Earth. The last thing he said before he left me at the Soulport was that he was much smaller than God, and for him to get to Earth would require a lot fewer people to understand his true nature. That if there were some sort of Bible for Satan, some sort of written or spoken work that would let people imagine just what it was truly like, that the gates would widen enough to let him through. Can you imagine him now? After Satan sent me through the Soulport to Earth, I only got to enjoy the quiet life for a few days before he came literally crashing through my window. I've seen a lot of strange things in my life, but I don't think any of them will ever top a blood-covered Satan in the middle of my living room with a giant shard of glass sticking out of his head. "Whoo-wee," he said. "I made it. I think I calibrated the jump a little wrong, though. But this is still Mars, right?" Satan, how did you? The powerful magic of best friends, Jake." Satan ripped open his shirt to reveal the still inked-on rune, along with several shards of glass sticking out of his chest. "I also hijacked a bunch of people's minds to widen the gates between dimensions, then shatter my consciousness into pieces small enough to fit through. But it was mostly the best friend stuff." "But why?" Customer outreach, Jake. Heaven is killing us in new customer growth rate this quarter. If we want to have any hope of catching up, we're going to need to be proactive. What do you mean by... Wait, who's running hell? I got a guy, Jake. He's the best. The best. Used to work customer service for Comcast. Really knows how to make people suffer. Okay, so customer outreach is... Come on, Bernie. It's like you've forgotten everything from your Welcome to Hell orientation seminar. You know, I worry about your memory sometimes. But I didn't have a large duffel bag came crashing through my other living room window. Great, said Satan. The recruitment materials are here. You know, you could have at least aimed for the same window. Tell me about it. Here, Bernie, carry this. Satan shoved the duffel bag into my arms, and I felt something sharp poke me in the chest as the contents of the bag clanged metallically. Ah, wait a second. Is this just a giant bag of knives? And hammers, Bertram. Don't forget about the hammers. But why do we need... Oh no. I am not helping you murder a bunch of people just so you can get more customers. We prefer to call it aggressive marketing. We rebranded it, Denny. All the big companies rebrand when they want to do something terrible to make money. This isn't hell, Satan. The rules are different here. You can't just kill a bunch of innocent people for no reason. Whoa, innocent? What, are we recruiting for heaven? I hope not. Their dental plan is shit, Denny. Shit. We're recruiting people for hell. We're killing rapists, murderers, people who don't pick up after their dogs. The worst of the worst, Denny. Oh, well, I guess you could argue ethically that... Exactly, Denny. And the priority is serial killers. We don't want them sending any more innocent souls to heaven. We're already way behind this quarter. Oh, so it's kind of like that TV show. Exactly, Dexter. It's just like that TV show, I Love Lucy. I don't think I saw that episode. Really? But it's the best one. Lucy's daughter is kidnapped by terrorists, and she goes on a rampage with a sawed-off shotgun. I won't tell you how it ends, but everyone dies. Okay then, but how do we know? Another crash came through the window. Jesus, Satan, how much of your stuff did you bring? This is the last thing, Denny. Satan tore the canvas bag from around the package that had just arrived to reveal an aquarium with an octopus inside. I had to invite my wife, didn't I? She's the best one. The other 16 are total hags, Denny. But please try not to make any more racist comments while she stays here. But I didn't. Okay, the first stop is a Mr. Reginald D. Wilson. Really sick son of a bitch, Denny. Don't turn your back on him for a second, or he'll put a knife in it. I'm not really sure about this, Satan. Just stick to the sales pitch. You'll be fine. Satan handed me a crumpled up piece of paper with what I hoped were coffee stains all over it. Congratulations. You've won an all-expense-paid trip to hell. Please contact the Dark Lord Satan for travel arrangements. That's when I pop out of the bushes and bring the hammer down, Denny. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Or literally. Either way, really. So, what's the point of the script exactly? Satan threw his arm around me and whispered, Crystal's head of sales and she worked it up. Just be a pal and pretend it's really good, okay? But how did she... Don't be racist, Denny. Octopuses are people just like you and me. Now come on, let's go kill this guy. We drove like a bat out of hell all the way to Reginald's house, screeching to a halt as soon as Satan spotted the place. All right, Denny, you're gonna be great. Great. Just follow the script and everything will go according to plan. Okay, what did this guy do again? Don't ask stupid questions, Denny. Just go give your pitch. I stepped out of the car somewhat hesitantly. When I made it up to the front door, I glanced back to see Satan enthusiastically giving me finger guns. I knocked on the door as softly as possible, praying that nobody would answer. Yet, right as I was about to turn around, the door swung open. Hey, who are you? Reginald D. Wilson was chubby, with thick glasses and a polo shirt. I glanced down at the script in my sweaty hands. Congratulations, you've won an all-expense-paid trip to hell. What? Is this some kind of screwed-up joke? Who the hell? Surprise! Satan yelled as he sprung up from seemingly nowhere. He clapped a hand on the man's shoulder, and the man shrieked as he disappeared in a column of flame. "Good job, Daniel," Satan beamed. "Let's go to the next pitch. But first, we should probably let the woman out of the basement." "You know what, Satan? Let's do it." Reginald D. Wilson shrieked and rattled his chains as a giant pitch-black demon beat him with a whip. "Wow, the reception's really great on this, huh, Garth?" "Yeah, I didn't know Hell had a TV channel. I had the guys set it up before I left so I could keep an eye on things. It's mostly torture now, but we're also thinking about adding in some original programming. Maybe some sitcoms, a couple police procedurals. We've got a lot of great TV producers down here in Hell." Satan stared at the TV, grinning as the demon swung Reginald up by the feet and began smacking him against the walls. Is anything else on?" "You can just say you don't like my TV show, Garth. No need to pussyfoot around it." Satan flipped the TV to the local news. The anchor was in the middle of some sort of breaking news story. "Say they were rescued by what appeared to be some sort of monster, along with a pale, sweaty man. Police have released this sketch of the two." A rough sketch of Satan and I flashed on the screen. Satan, what are we going to do about that?" "What are we going to do? Get laid, Dell. Earth chicks go crazy for celebrities." "But the police. What are the police going to do, Dell? Arrest Satan? We'll be fine. If you're going to be such a wimp, we'll just erase their memories next time." "Wait, you can erase people's memories?" "Of course I can, Dell. Do you remember being raped by that giant tentacle monster in Hell?" No. "Well, you're welcome. Not that you ever said thank you." "Okay, but how are we gonna..." Satan shoved an axe into my hands. "This time, it's your turn to do the killing, Dell." "Satan, I really don't think..." "Come on, you heard how they described you on the news just now. Small, skinny, weak-chinned, effeminate. But they didn't actually say any of that. It was implied, Dell. But next time, they'll be describing me as a pathetic human meat sack, and you as a handsome, statuesque monster with a 3-foot Johnson from Hell." Don't argue with me, Dell. We've got people to kill." "Oh, right. So who's next then?" "Jason P. Johnston. He runs a clothing line that uses sweatshop labor. 4 kids died in Malaysia because of him last month alone, Dell. Children are pure souls, Dell. Pure. Do you know how much heaven's stock goes up when a kid dies?" Heaven has stocks? Don't be stupid, Ted. I'm speaking metaphorically. Are you ready to go kill this hump or not?" I guess so. I mean, he is killing kids after all." "Great. Let's go." When we arrived at Jason P. Johnston's address, we were greeted by a huge white mansion with a large iron gate out front. "Wow, sweatshop labor really pays off, huh, Ted? I think I'll start running Hell with people like Jason P. Johnston. We can even start our own clothing line. It'll be great, Ted. Great. People still wear human skin, right?" Sorry, Satan. I don't think so." "Really? What a waste. What do they do with you when you die? Just dig a big hole in the ground and chuck you inside?" Actually, that's exactly. Humans are ridiculous. Next, you're going to tell me they just throw healthy organs away while people are dying of disease." "All right. Looks like he's got an intercom. I need you to pretend to be a sexy lady, so he'll let us in." Okay. Wait. Why do I have to be the lady?" "Come on, Ted. You heard what they said on the news. You're a nice guy, Ted, but you're basically just a 12-year-old girl with an Adam's apple." "But they didn't." Satan buzzed the intercom and Jason P. Johnston's voice came through. "Hello? Who's there?" Hi," I stammered out in an unnatural falsetto. "I'm a sexy lady." Satan started snickering and the voice came through the intercom again. "I can see you on the camera, jackass. Oh, in real cute devil costume. You know Halloween isn't in June, right? Screw off, or I'm calling the cops." "Good job, Ted. You blew it. Now we've just got to give up and go kill someone else." Satan adjusted the rearview mirror and started backing out of the long driveway. "Sorry, Satan, The car lurched forward as Satan slammed on the gas, and we smashed through the gate and skidded onto the lawn. Come on, Ted. I'm just messing with you. You heard him call me cute, right? We're gonna kill this hump twice, Ted. Twice! The seatbelt jerked me back as the car crashed through the front door. Satan popped the trunk open and leapt out of the car while I fumbled to undo my seatbelt and fell out onto the ground. Here, Ted, Satan said, tossing me an assault rifle. You take the little gun. Satan yanked a huge minigun out of the trunk and chaotically sprayed a burst of rounds through the home. Jason P. Johnston, I'm calling you out. He paused for a moment and waited. Huh, I thought that would work. Nobody ever has the balls for a standoff anymore. All right, come on, Ted. I can smell him this way. Satan ran off with the minigun, and I chased after, hugging the assault rifle to my chest. When we found Jason P. Johnston, he was huddled in the corner of his bedroom, shaking. He threw his hands in the air when he saw us. Look, just take whatever you want, okay? Just take what you want and go. Oh, we will, Jason, Satan grinned. Go on, Ted. You know what to do. Right, I said, shouldering the rifle. Wait, what are you doing, Ted? Satan asked. Killing him? No, the sales pitch, Ted. Read the sales pitch. Oh, I patted my pockets. I must have left it at the house. Oh, wow, Ted. Crystal's gonna be so disappointed. And she already doesn't like you after all those racist comments you made. Sorry, Satan. It's okay, buddy. Let's just kill this guy, and we'll talk about it when we get home. Oh, right. We both turned to look at Jason P. Johnston, still huddled in the corner. His mouth was hanging open loosely. What the hell are you guys? He said. I tried to think of a cool one-liner. Something Satan might say, but I couldn't think of anything. So I just shot him in the head. Satan grinned at me. Come on, Ted. Let's go home and watch TV. There's a new show I really want to check out. Jason P. Johnston's cries for mercy were muffled out by the avalanche of tiny feet as he was repeatedly stomped to death by children. Satan sat there glued to the TV like it was the most interesting thing he'd ever seen. Satan? Yeah, buddy. You said children were pure souls, right? Of course. So, where did you get children in hell? That's a great question, Derek. Do you want to order pizza? Yeah, I guess, but you didn't answer. Great. Just put it on your credit card. Okay. You see the way little Lucy stomps on his face like that? She's great, isn't she? Which one is Lucy? They're all named Lucy, Derek. It's easier to keep track of them that way. What? I've got at least 7 kids with each wife, Derek. That's a lot of kids to keep track of. I can't go calling them by the wrong name all the time. It would affect their self-esteem. But naming them all Lucy was a stroke of genius. My first wife wanted to call them all Satan Jr. Can you imagine? What a hag. Satan turned up the TV as one of the kids picked up a rock and violently bashed Jason P. Johnston's skull in. I admit, said Satan, Lucy 47 is my favorite. I know. As a parent, you're supposed to love all your kids equally, but... There was a sickening crunch as Lucy 47 tore out Jason P. Johnston's spine and held it up to the camera. Her skin was almost pure white, and her eyes were solid black like a doll's. As I stared into those black eyes, I became aware of the sensation of air being sucked out of my lungs, and my whole body began to feel heavy. I could feel blood vessels starting to pop in my neck, and I strained to turn my head away, but I found that I could no longer move. All of a sudden, the air rushed back into my chest. Satan had plunged his hand into the TV, but instead of breaking, the glass began to ripple like water as he pulled a small, pale arm through. As he continued to pull,
I saw the rest of Lucy 47 climb through the screen and into my living room. Satan grabbed a big pair of sunglasses and handed them to her. Here, put these on, honey," he said. The girl didn't say anything, and she just put on the sunglasses and stared at me. I was laying on the floor gasping for breath. "Oh, come on, Brandon. You look like a trout over there. Come on, get up and let's go out. We've got people to kill." I managed to steady my breathing. So you don't want the pizza? Just order it. We'll bring it with us." "You want to bring pizza to a murder?" "Technically, it's a sales pitch, Derek. There just happens to be a murder at the end of it." After we got the pizza, Satan had me sit up front so I could hold it open on my lap for him to eat and drive. Lucy sat in the back and stared out the window. "Are you sure this is safe, Satan?" I asked as we narrowly sped by another car. "Don't worry about it, Donnie. The explosives in the trunk won't go off unless we crash." I gulped. "There are explosives in the trunk? Are you serious?" "Of course, Donnie." Cars screeched to a halt around us as Satan ran a red light. "How do you expect to blow people up without explosives?" "What? Who are we going to blow up?" "The sex traffickers, Donnie." "All right, fine, but maybe we can be a little discreet this time?" "Let me think about it, Donnie." Satan paused for a moment. "Nah." Satan turned around and started talking to Lucy. "Lucy, honey, are you ready to go kill some people with Daddy?" Lucy didn't say anything. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw that she had removed her sunglasses and was staring out the window. Birds were dropping from the sky behind us. When we got to the location, I saw that it was an out-of-the-way house in the woods. There were a bunch of Jeeps and big black SUVs parked outside. There was an armed guard posted at the door with an assault rifle. "All right, Donnie," Satan was whispering now. "You wait in the car. I'm going to put the explosives by their back wheels for when they start to run." He punched me in the shoulder and handed me a video camera and some binoculars. "Get some good footage for the website, all right?" Satan slipped out of the car, and then he was off, carrying little metal discs that looked like mines. He moved around the compound silently, dropping mines around the wheels of the Jeeps and SUVs. When he was done, he grabbed onto a branch and climbed into a tree. I wondered, was he just going to watch? If so, then what were they going to be running from? I put the binoculars up to my eyes and watched the armed guard. That's when I saw Lucy. She looked like a ghost as she strode smoothly through the clearing. The guard seemed just as confused as I was when he spotted her, and he reached for a walkie-talkie at his waist. That's when Lucy took her sunglasses off. The man suddenly froze in place. I watched as his face twisted up with pain. The blood vessels in his neck started to turn black, bulging and bursting with the black fluid that sizzled and burned as it flowed over his skin. Lucy cocked a fist back like she was going to punch him, but instead, she threw her fist straight through his stomach, bracing herself with the other hand. She ripped out his spine with the head still attached and tossed it aside like rubbish. Men rushed out of the house, and the forest erupted with gunfire. Lucy's tiny little body shook as hundreds of bullets collided with her. She shrugged the onslaught off like rainwater, leaping from man to man and tearing them apart like paper, littering the ground with their organs and dismembered limbs. The men started to throw down their guns and jump into their cars to drive away. The ground shook and trees fell as the mines went off, sending burnt flesh and shattered glass everywhere. When it was all over, Lucy stood there among the bodies in a singed dress and silently turned to look at her father. Satan hopped down from the tree and walked over, patting her on the head. "Come on, honey," he beamed down with fatherly affection. "Let's go get some ice cream." In my last update, I introduced you to Satan's favorite daughter, Lucy 47. Some of you were curious about her background, and I admit that I was too. So I asked Satan about it, hoping to answer some of your questions. Satan told me that Lucy's mother was one of the many demons that immigrated to Earth, while the war between heaven and hell was still raging in full force. Though all the demons were conscripted to fight in the war, many of them ended up deserting. Some were simply hoping to escape the conflict without having their soul obliterated. But some came to Earth to torture humans, taking advantage of the fact that heaven didn't have spare troops to dedicate to their protection. As some of you guessed, Lucy 47's mother was in fact the demonic equivalent of a gorgon. According to Satan, mankind's mythical depictions of gorgons, vampires, and many other monsters are actually based on the demonic creatures that plagued their ancient civilizations. The exploits of the particularly infamous demons are included in a tome called the Encyclopedia Satanica. The entry for Lucy 47's mother indicates that she came to Earth in the 734th year of the war. I'm not sure what that translates to in Earth dates exactly, but it was during the era of the ancient Greeks. According to the encyclopedia, the Greek myth of Medusa is based in large part on her murderous torment of these people. Now that your questions have been answered, I'll move on to the next part of what has been happening with Satan and I. Lucy 47 sat in the living room texting on her cell phone. Had I not witnessed her tearing apart men like tissue paper the day before, I might have mistaken her for a normal Earth teenager. Hey, Lucy, do you know when your dad is getting back? She didn't say anything. She just looked over her sunglasses at one of my houseplants. The plant hissed and let out a black smoke as it withered away. Okay, I guess I'll wait. About 30 minutes later, Satan burst through the door grinning. All right, Mel, you're gonna love this. I just got off a conference call with the management team in Hell, and we've come up with a much more efficient way to do this thing. Really? Absolutely, Mel. We're gonna bring a team of top murderers, salespeople to Earth, and task them out to increasing our customer growth rate. So, you want to bring a bunch of monsters to Earth, so they can kill people for you? Once again, Mel, I want to remind you that we prefer the term new customer recruitment, but that is the basic idea. Okay, so you want to pull them all through the TV like we did Lucy? Don't be ridiculous, Mel. We can't just pull any demon through the TV. I can only pull Lucy 47 through because our souls are already connected as father and daughter. Oh, so how do we get the rest of them to Earth? That's a great question, Mel, and it leads me to the next thing I want to talk with you about. The management team feels that your talents aren't really being fully utilized in your current position. Okay. Are you saying I'm getting a promotion? More like a reassignment, but you can call it a promotion if it makes you feel better, Darren. Okay, sure. Does this mean I'm not going to have to kill people anymore? Yes, Darren. Your new position will not entail any homicidal duties. All right, well, sign me up, I guess. Great, Mel. Just hold still for a moment. Satan pulled out a gun and shot me in the head. I hit the ground hard and sputtered and coughed as the sulfuric air filled my lungs. I was back in hell. A column of flame rushed down from the sky next to me, and when the smoke dissipated, I saw Satan standing there. All right, we're gonna need you to help magic some stuff up down here, Darren. Think you're up to the task? I tried to talk, but just wound up doubled over in a fist of coughing. The air quality in hell is terrible. Great, Darren, great. Our first stop is Lucy 47's mother. I'm gonna warn you, Darren. She's a total bitch, but she's my wife, so be nice or I'll have to kill you again. I managed to squeak out, Okay, Satan. The road to the Gorgon's castle was lined with spikes, each one topped with a rotting head. She's got a weird fetish for a decapitation, Darren, so be careful. Ever since some asshole cut her head off on Earth and she got sent back to hell, she just started lopping human heads off. She goes through like 40 a day. It's ridiculous. Wow,
Seems like she really holds a grudge. Absolutely, Darren. She's very racist against humans, kind of like you are against octopuses. So try not to provoke her by doing any of that weird human stuff you do all the time. Wait, what do you mean by, great, we're here? As we crested a hill, I looked up to see a giant pile of skulls arranged into a pyramid. It was 90 feet tall if it was a foot. Satan shook his head. I have to apologize for my wife's crappy decor, Darren. I mean, really, like, a pile of skulls? It's a little on the nose, isn't it? Who's it supposed to scare off? Girl Scouts? Does she have a grudge against Thin Mints too? Yeah, totally lame, I said, trying to keep my heart from beating out of my chest. As Satan knocked on the door, I suddenly remembered that I couldn't look at his wife in the eyes without dying. The door swung open, and I looked right underneath where her face was. The neckline of her dress plunged all the way to her belly button. Jesus, Darren, you meet my wife for the first time, and the first thing you do is stare at her rack? What a human, huh, honey? You can look up, I heard a soft voice say. I looked up and beheld the gorgon. She had milky white skin and chocolate brown eyes, plump black lips, and long, sleek black hair. She was gorgeous. Wow. She smiled at me. Nice to meet you too, Darren. I'm Maddie. So, I'm not gonna turn to stone then? No, I can control it, she coughed. But it, looks like part of you has already turned to stone. What? She looked down and my eyes followed. I had a massive erection. Oh, no, that's just, sometimes when you change dimensions, the magic. You have a magic erection? No, it's just hard to think with all that blood in the wrong head, huh, Brian? Satan chimed in. Satan started laughing. Oh, this guy, huh? A typical human, right? Don't you just hate it when they do that weird human stuff? I don't think anybody would blame you if you just decapitated him right now. Maybe later. I've still got some leftovers from yesterday in the fridge. Would you like to come in? Actually, Satan, I'd rather... Don't be rude, Brian. My wife just invited you in. Maddie turned back and waved us inside. Her hips swayed back and forth as she led us up the stairs to the main hall. Are you staring at my wife's ass, Brian? What? No, I don't even... What? Maddie turned around and smiled. Give him a break, Satan. He's only human. Are you hungry, Brian? Yeah, famished, actually. Great. Humans eat other humans, right? Actually, I think I've got some snacks in the car. Don't worry about it. If you say so. I guess we can just get right down to business then. The bedroom's this way. Bedroom? Here, she said, holding the door open for me. Satan will wait outside. I looked at Satan questioningly. Well, go on, Brian. We don't have all day. All right. I went inside and stood awkwardly by the wall. Maddie came in and sat down on the bed. Is the bed okay? She asked. I guess so. Good, she said, patting the spot next to her. Come sit down. I did as I was told, sitting down on the bed next to Maddie. Listen, Maddie, I don't really know. My voice disappeared as she shrugged her shoulders, and her dress fell off, exposing her breasts. Okay, she said. Do you want me sitting up or laying down? Laying down, I guess? Okay, I guess that makes sense. I know they're kind of large, sorry, I know that makes it harder. Harder? Yeah, drawing the rune on my chest to help me get through the Soulport. It must be easier with a flat surface. The what? Oh, right, the rune. Of course, let me, just get my marker. Is that it right there? No, that's my... Maddie just stared at me blankly. Oh, I'm sorry, it's your penis again. I'm just not used to seeing them that small. Are all humans like that? I don't know. I fished the marker out of my pocket and drew the rune on her chest. Great, she smiled. Can you send Satan in when you leave? I want to say goodbye before I go to Earth. Okay, sure. You may want to go downstairs. We can be pretty loud. Just help yourself to something in the fridge, okay? Yeah, all right. Satan and I pattered our way down the path that cut through the dark woods around us, though to call them woods might be a little generous. Rather than tree bark, the trees seemed to be coated in slimy black scales. The leaves looked like ragged pieces of skin and were oozing a thick black substance down to the ground below. Satan had explained that they were vampire trees. Vampires, he had told me, as undead creatures were incapable of reproducing the same way as humans. These trees were planted with a mix of both magic and vampire blood, and over the course of a 1,000-year lifetime, the little bits of ragged skin knit together to form a vampire fetus. I didn't ask him what that might look like. Satan gestured to one of the trees in front of us. Look at that one, Jed. It's a Transylvanian-Romanian hybrid. The scales are really magnificent, aren't they? Sure. I wasn't sure which tree he was referring to. They all looked exactly the same to me. You don't have to pretend to know what I'm talking about, Jed. We both know you don't know dick about vampire trees. Right. Satan picked up the pace a little. We're gonna meet an old friend of mine, said Satan. He's really sensitive about his teeth, so try not to say anything stupid. Why? What's wrong with his teeth? There's nothing wrong with them, Jed. Like they say, it's not the size of the fangs that matter. It's how you use them. Oh, so it's sort of like guys and their, you know. No, I don't know. What? Penises. Satan grinned. I did know, actually. I just wanted to make you say it. Yeah, it's pretty much the same, really. Just something girl vampires say to make you feel better. Oh, okay. The forest got thicker and thicker with vampire trees, so much so that the black fluid dripping down started running off in little currents. I couldn't even see the castle ahead when we finally reached it, the only thing visible beneath the treetops being the large wooden door and 2 torches on either side that cast an eerie light over it. Satan rapped his knuckles on the door, and it opened to reveal a waxy white vampire in a bathrobe. His hair was unkempt and brushed the tops of his shoulders, and his eyes looked like little blue ice chips. Hey, good to see you again, Stu, said Satan. Stu grinned wide to show off a mouth full of white teeth and 2 of the biggest fangs I'd ever seen. Satan gasped. Whoa, Jesus, Stu. It looks like you whittled down candy canes. Where did you get those? Fang enhancement surgery, he said smugly. Got them from a tiger with a bad overbite. They look great, buddy. Anyway, this here is Jed. Jed, Stu, Jed. Hi, I said stupidly. So, what kind of name is Stu for a vampire? It's great, isn't it? He smiled again, showing every single tooth in his mouth when he did. My birth name is Dracula, but I wanted a name that really struck fear into the heart, you know? So I had it changed to Stu. All right then. Anyway, Stu turned around and beckoned us to follow him inside. Why don't you come sit down for dinner before we do the ritual? I didn't see how I could refuse without risking disembowelment, so I silently nodded my assent, and we made our way to the dinner table, where I dreaded seeing what a vampire's idea of dinner was. I was surprised to see the giant tables laden with all sorts of delicious-looking things. There was a steak still sizzling from the grill,
giant wheels of some sort of white cheese, a few dozen bottles of wine, and some sort of soup that let off a thick smell of garlic. Satan rubbed his hands together and grinned. "So glad to see you finally given up that weirdo diet, Stu." Stu shook his head. "I haven't given it up," he replied. "This is just for you guys." "What sort of diet are you on?" I asked. Stu sighed miserably. "All vegan," he said, lifting up a little bell from the table and giving it a shake. I wondered how a vampire could be vegan, but my question was quickly answered as two huge vampires carried in a screaming and kicking man in a Che Guevara t-shirt. They slammed him down on the table in front of Stu, knocking over a few wine glasses in the process, and Stu bent down to feed on his neck. The screaming abruptly turned to gasping, and the man's body began to shrivel up like a raisin before finally going still. I'd grown used to seeing this sort of horror, and I was more curious than anything. "So, Stu," I said in between mouthfuls of mashed potatoes, what's the point of a vampire going vegan?" "Regular human blood has too much cholesterol these days," he said blandly. "The full fat does taste so much better, though," he added in sadly. Most of the rest of the dinner was finished in silence as we respectively devoured our meals. I went through 2 8-ounce steaks and an absurd amount of garlic mashed potatoes, while Satan had the marinara farfalle and 3 bottles of wine, and Stu had 2 more vegans. Afterwards, I drew the same rune on Stu's chest as I had on Maddie's. She was right. Drawing the rune was much easier with a flat surface and no throbbing erection. "All done," I said when I'd finished. "Great," said Stu. "Satan and I are gonna head off to the Soulport." He eyed me with a look that was suspiciously similar to hunger. "What's your cholesterol like?" he asked, cocking an eyebrow. High," I said hurriedly. Really dangerously high." He looked unconvinced, but just then Satan clapped him on the shoulder and whispered something in his ear that sounded a lot like hepatitis. I opened my mouth to protest, thought better of it, and waved them goodbye as they left. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hey, is this thing working? Can they hear me? Satan, what are you doing and who are you talking to? What's it look like I'm doing, Glenn? I'm breaking the 4th wall. I'm talking to my biggest fans here. Don't be rude. What? Never mind what I'm doing, Jake. It's ethereal being stuff. Okay. Anyways, thanks for listening to the series, everybody. And shoutouts to some of my biggest fans. Nikki London UK, Mysterious Mark, Amber Cochran, Mr. Freaky Story, Dr. Grimm, Enlightenment World United, Chaotix, Mahe Shrivastava, Man Dizzlefo Shizzle, Insomniac CP, A Hawaiian Shirt, Selena Burkett. Goodness gracious, Satan, how long is this list? Don't interrupt me, Barry. It's bad decorum. And anyways, I got a lot of fans, man. King of Hell, Father of Lies, and Rock and Roll and all that. Let's get back to it. Christopher Scales, Summer Strangeness, Spooky Garrow, and Italia369. If I left anybody out, then my bad. I'm not omniscient like the guy upstairs. I'm an ethereal being and all, but I can only do so much. You gotta comment on the video so I can remember you. I slowly raised my hand after being chastised just a moment ago. Yeah, Barry, speak up. This isn't kindergarten. Anybody else you want to thank? I looked at him, hoping he would get the hint. I mean, I was an integral part of this whole operation. Of course. You didn't let me finish. Thanks 1,000 times over to lifeisstrangemetoo, the incredible author of this awesome story. He's got a playlist on the channel with more of his stories, and be sure to check out his Reddit page and Facebook for more of his awesome work. Links in the description down below. Now, back to the other guy. Thanks for listening, everybody. And if you like what I'm doing, leave a like and a comment down below, and hit that subscribe button for more Nightmares Nightly.